All right, so this video is on comparing the Caldera closed, the unmistakable look of the Caldera closed, and the Ori 3.0. So more of a classic look with the Ori 3.0. Tried to get that vintage look of our original Ori. As you can see, here's the OG version and current one, and then the Caldera closed. And so the biggest difference between the Ori and the Caldera is a couple things. This has the carbon fiber driver and baffle and everything. This has a fiberglass baffle, a little bit of different acoustic properties there. They both have the cams magnets in them. So both with the cams magnet technology, both with the Caldera pads. But the Caldera has the TPE driver, which is 2 micron. This has the Captain driver, which is 6 micron. And it gives just a completely different sound. And I also tune them a little differently, but they do share all of the same pads. And so we'll do a pad video later, but this one's mainly on comparing them in stock form. Handy RU9 from Cayenne that I've been using a lot lately. Drives these beautifully. These are not super hard to drive planars, just so you know. Any amp will drive these to a good volume pretty much, but obviously they're going to sound more robust, more full with desktop systems and everything. So anyways, quick listen. The Caldera is that the sound is it blends punchiness with delicacy. That's how I would describe the sound. That's kind of the beauty of the Caldera, is it blends the difference between those ultra thin diaphragm planars and dynamic driver headphones that have that kind of innate punch. And so that was really the whole thing about using the ADS, the atrium damping system, and the cams magnets, is getting that airflow to give you that air movement to make it sound dynamic. All right, let's go to the Ori 3.0. We're gonna listen with the plugs in. So you see the plugs there. We're gonna go plugs in and then plugs out real quick. Same track, one listen. All right, gotta try with the plugs out. Solid plugs there. I'll put the other videos for the Ori down below in the description. All right, so, okay. To be honest, I don't do a ton of comparing between headphones when I'm tuning them. My goal is always to make each headphone as good as it can be, not to just listen to our other models and just make them different. Even though I want them to be different, I think always optimizing the system you're working within is always going to be the best thing to do. That being said, yeah, there's some innate differences between these two headphones. The Caldera closed, it's more delicate. It's got a little bit more nimble texture. It's got kind of a ever so lightly less bombastic sound, so to speak, in a way, but still punchy, and it's got a refinement to it. The Ori 3.0, I prefer it with the plugs out. Having the plugs or the pegs out kind of opens up the airflow. We're gonna look at the measurements in a second, but that extra bass, that extra refinement, it's a more macro headphone. It's not resolving the micro details quite as well as the Caldera closed, but it's doing really well. And it there's a weight to the treble. And I think that's what the 6 micron driver brings, is kind of a texture and firmness to the treble. And I think that's the coolest thing about this headphone, is there's a density to the sound that I don't think I really have in my collection, and that's kind of the point of a lot of the things I make. I want to make things that are just a little different and add to my collection, like ZMF or otherwise. It's just fun having unique and different headphones, and I think the Ori is really that. All right, this is all 3 Ori measurements, and the version with all the plugs in is this brown line. The version with the kind of ported plug, so to speak, is the dotted green line right here. And then the plug out, you can see, we get a little more dip at that 300 to 400 area, and a noticeable, maybe 3 dB more bass, especially as you get towards that node around 190, 180 hertz. And so it's really adding, overall bass response completely there, which is pretty cool. These measurements, by the way, are taken with the 5128 rig here, audio precision. So just a little plug for the 5128 and the audio precision system. Bringing a stock Caldera in there, you see that dotted line. So let's get rid of a couple of these Ori lines real quick. So yeah, that is stock Caldera closed in the dotted red line against the stock Ori in the solid brown line. And what you can see, and again, this is Ori with Caldera Lamb top perf only deep pads, which is a secondary pad on the Caldera Open, but it's the stock pad on the Ori 3. And then the dotted line is the stock pad on the Caldera closed, which is the hybrid top perf only non-deep, just stock thickness pad, and you can see the differences there. There's gonna be another video that'll do a deep dive on all the different pads. So we're gonna keep the Caldera closed real quick, and let's just go to the port open version. And so if you do the port open, you can see pretty quickly that the Ori is a bit bassier of a headphone. You've got about 3 dB more bass. The nodes are, where it's similar, where it has the same kind of dip around the 300 to 400 area, but you just have more bass. You've also, you're normalized around 800 to 1000, but you've also got a little more in the 2K area. And so the whole story isn't just told by the frequency response. You can see here that, we've got right there, that blue line that I just took out was the Caldera impulse response, and the red line is the Ori impulse response. And so that thicker driver is actually having a stronger impulse right at the bat. So this is something I think a lot of I don't want to call them old school audiophiles or anything, but I think a lot of audiophiles talk about it. What is Pratt in audio? And I'm going to get off the O3 here just to more quickly get an answer. Pratt stands for pace, rhythm, and timing. All right, great. And I think that's the main thing between the Captain driver in the Ori and the polyethylene driver in the Caldera. Is that a good or bad thing? I can't exactly tell you that, but then I can tell you that if we take away the Ori here, you can see that the Caldera response, it's a little quicker to go smooth here. You can see that, by about 3 milliseconds, we're almost a flat line. You can see if we bring the Ori response back that the Ori has a little tiny bit more jaggedness after the 3 milliseconds than the Caldera does. And so it's the same thing with a lot of ZMFs. They have, they come from a similar ilk, but there's some main differences there. Okay, now the exciting part. Let's go ahead and listen to vintage ZMF and compare with the modern ZMF real quick. Pads are a little old, headphones a little dusty. This is a Mark II Fostex back when these came out. They're on the Mark IV now, but yes, I'm gonna put my ears on these even though they're a little dusty. Maybe I'll wipe these off a little bit, but it's classic ZMF vintage sound. What can you do? RU9 actually drives it really well. Can't hear myself. All right. RU9 actually drives a T50 really well. amps have definitely gotten a lot better in the last 10 years since Ori Omni came out. All right, so go over here. Here's the Ori 1.0. This one that I just had here to listen to. And, you know, let's bring up the Caldera stock. So you got the Caldera stock here with the dotted line. That's the stock Caldera. The blue line is the Ori 3. And then that solid red line, a little less sub bass, a little more mid bass. That's the Ori, or the Omni, is the solid red line that you can see here has a little less in the treble and a little more bass. And I think that's, you know, that's one of the main differences, I think, between the new Ori and the old Ori, is that, you know, some of these T50 drivers, it was hard to get the glare out, and I think I was kind of combating that a lot of the time. And you can kind of see I tuned the treble down a little bit in there. And with the Ori 3.0 and this different mechanical system and magnet system around the drivers, you know, you're a little bit up there, you know, closer to how the Caldera is tuned, and a little closer to, you know, probably how the Harman is and everything like that. And you get a sound with less glare but more detail, because I was able to tune the headphone, you know, a little brighter. And while it may not look quite as bombastic, remember, we're comparing a 50mm driver that I often compensated a lot with these T50 mods. I'd put more bass in to try to make the driver sound bigger, whereas with an 80mm driver, I didn't really need to do that quite as much. But you know, honestly, I go back and listen to these, I'm still really proud of them. It was the last T50 mod. It still sounds great in my mind. And I think that was cool, because it's the end of my T50 journey, and now, you know, I'm right in the middle of my plain art journey, so to speak. And this headphone is just so cool that you know, it took a long time to come, 10 years between the last T50 mod to this one, but a decade well worth of learning, and I'm still learning, and all this audio stuff. So yeah, thanks for watching. That's some of the stock sonics and a little history of the ZMF right there. I'll put some more links in the comments, and I'll check you guys later. See you.